We are pleased to begin this morning with Art Acevedo, formerly Chief of Police in Austin, and since November 30th, Chief of Police in Houston, the first Hispanic to lead its department with 5,200 officers, 1,200 civilian support personnel, and an $825 million annual budget. Art was born in Cuba. He came to the U.S. with his family in 1968 when he was 4 years old. He grew up in California and was educated there and began his career in law enforcement there. He is a proponent of community involvement, police helping people, trying to forge relationships with each person they come into contact with, and he has a proven record of success in the city of Austin, as all of us who are here from Austin know. He has proven himself determined and effective in curbing the use of force while at the same time trying to address root causes of confrontation such as poverty, like the poverty he knew personally in Cuba. Chief Acevedo's sincere appreciation of the importance of increased trust between police and communities qualifies him to begin our discussions today. Please join me in welcoming Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo.
Wow, thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. What a great morning to be here. And, you know, I'm a little intimidated because everybody's a judge in here except me, I guess. So I'm going to say Your Honor, Your Honor, Your Honor, Your Honor, and I'm going to just call everybody Your Honor this morning. But it is a privilege to be here because, you know, I've been a cop for over 30 years, and, you know, it is a calling for me. You know, the difference between those of us that are successful in life and those of us that maybe are not that successful is because you've got to have some passion, some fire in your belly. And I'm really pleased to be here with the courts. To be quite frank, a lot of the issues we're dealing with when it comes to justice is placed on the footsteps, at the feet of the men and women in blue throughout our country, where right now, you know, we are painted with this broad brush that we are, you know, a bunch of Neanderthal knuckle draggers in this nation, when in fact, the truth is that this generation of cop that is serving today, about 18,000 police departments, 800,000 men and women, are truly, in fact, and I can attest to this, the best generation of police officers in the history of American policing. That's a fact. But, like the human condition, law enforcement is imperfect, as are the courts, as is society, as is this nation, as are racial relations. And if you don't think that's true, just listen to the political discourse in our nation with this last election, or when we talk about illegal immigration, or when we talk about poverty, or when we talk about the governor last session when he wanted to invest about $118 million in pre-K education, where some folks called that welfare. And my response to that is guilty as charged. He's taken an investment and making an investment in the welfare of children that we know, when you look at the data, that today this justice and this pursuit of justice doesn't start when a kid turns 18 or the first time they go to jail. It starts at birth. It starts at the circumstances they're born into. And so people were asking me last session, hey, why is the police chief writing an op-ed piece supporting the governor's proposal to spend $118 million on pre-K? I think it was about $118 million. It's really clear to me because I have an 8-year-old kid that when he went to kindergarten in Eaton's Elementary in Austin, it wasn't my kindergarten. I'm an immigrant that came to the United States, hit the lotto in 1968. My family and I got here with $5 in my pocket. The government gave my father the clothes on our backs and some photos. And my kindergarten was 4 hours, only non-English speaking kid in the school. Now, they taught me English, so you can blame my teachers. Good public education, now I won't shut up. So it was 4 hours. You got there, you played, you learned your colors, right? You had your milk and cookie time, you had your nap time, and you went home. Well, today's kindergarten, it is at 7:35 they start, and they're not finished till 2:35, and they better be reading, writing, knowing some math, and having an extensive vocabulary if they're going to be successful. So you know why I supported that? Because there's too many kids, through no fault of their own, that start school way behind, and they never catch up, and they drop out, and then they end up being 7 to 8 times more likely to end up in prison instead of on a job or a vocation or in college. And so that's why we're supportive. And the reason I decided to come here today was, number one, you can't say no to the Chief Justice, and, you know, Justice Guzman, you absolutely cannot say no to. Not only that, I knew I was hopefully going to be her chief, not only just in Austin, but also in Houston, is because we are living at a time when too many of us are afraid to talk about the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is this. Number one, law enforcement isn't broken, but it isn't perfect, right? The truth of the matter is, and too many of us that wear stars and bars, who I call the leadership of the law enforcement community, the truth of the matter won't talk about it because they're afraid to do what? Lose their job instead of doing their job. Is that out of those 800,000 police officers, the very, very, very vast majority will serve 25 to 30 years. They will serve with honor. They'll serve with distinction. They'll never shoot at anybody. They'll never shoot anybody. They'll never kill anybody. They'll never seriously injure anybody. But the also truth of the matter is, out of those 800,000 individuals, there's probably 1% to 2%, maybe a little higher, that have no business being police officers. That when they lie, in my department, I already told the Houston Police Department, I'm not there to keep a job, I'm there to do a job. And if they want to run me out, I'll find another job. I was looking for one, I found that one, I'll find another one. If they lie to me, they're done. And here's what's happened. Too many people like me are afraid to hold people accountable. And you know, people are watching. Every organization sets the bar high, but then they don't enforce the standard. When we as leaders tell people, if you lie or abuse people, you're gonna get fired, guess what we need to do? Man, I'm seeing a lot of my friends from Austin here. Good to see you. You have to hold people to that standard. And then when we look at ourselves, how many of you think that you're biased? Come on, raise your hand if you think you're biased. Now, if you're not, I want to give you a little test to show you that you have some bias. Okay? How many of you are Christians in here? Well, I got news for you. Jesus died for a reason, and we've been making it worth his while throughout his history, right? I want you all to close your eyes really quickly. Everybody, please, we have plenty of security, not security. You guys need to be looking out for Al-Qaeda. Close your eyes really quickly. And let's do this test. Because, see, diversity is something that's become a four-letter word in this country for a lot of people. Equal opportunity is something that's become a four-letter word. And by God, we cannot admit that we're biased or people are going to say we're racist. In other words, we are being forced to deny our own humanity. Now, imagine living in a community where everybody that wore a police uniform, not one of them looked like you. Not, if you're white, they're all black. If you're black, they're all white. If you're male, they're all female. If you're Jewish, they're all Christian or Muslim. I want you to think about that world for a minute and ask yourself, how comfortable would I be being policed by that police department? Now you can open your eyes. And if you are thinking to yourself that you would be comfortable, then I think you're lying to yourself. We have biases. I mean, it is proven. We all have our biases. Whether they're conscious or subconscious, they still exist. And here's what's happening with policing. I believe, when you look at the disproportionality in terms of sentencing in this country, I believe that a lot of times when you look at people of color, the reason they run, the reason they fight, the reason they resist the authority of the police officer is because they see the criminal justice system as not being fair, as not being impartial, as not giving them the same exact rules and consequences as similarly situated persons that are not persons of color. I believe that in my heart of hearts. And who ends up paying the price? That young 22, 24-year-old police officer and that young person that they're chasing, because they think that they're going to be put in prison for 20 years for something that somebody else might be put in prison for 2 years, or maybe even get probation. That's part of the problem. And what I'm glad that we're here today is that I think there's finally a realization in the criminal justice system that it's not just about the police, that the responsibility belongs to every single one of us in the cog of the criminal justice system. No matter how good our cops are, if people aren't treated the same, if they're not treated fairly, if they're not given an opportunity at a redemption, an opportunity at restoration, then we're never going to fix the problems. And I'm really heartened by the fact that we're here today. I think this is probably a first for the state of Texas. And when you think about Texas, you know, from California, we get beat up a lot in California, the left coast, and but the truth of the matter is we're much more progressive as a state than we lead the nation, and here we are again. So I don't want to keep you here too long, but I want you to think about a few things. When we look at the state of government, and right now, the state of government and the mistrust of government is in an absolute fever pitch high. And the most visible cog of government is the men and women in blue that are on the front lines, and so once again, they're paying the consequences. I'm going to challenge every one of you as you continue to serve on the bench, and unfortunately, I'll be real frank with you, I will say it again, I had this conversation with the former Chief Justice. I think, Your Honor, we had that conversation. I don't really think that I don't believe that it is a good model to have elected justices. I just don't believe in that. And I don't believe if we're going to have elected justices that it should be a republic, an R or a D. Because if justice is supposed to be blind, how can you run based on political and party dogma? And I think that our system of government, our system of justice, our system of the courts needs to be brought up to speed. I'll be real honest with you. And the reason that I'm saying that is because that young 19-year-old kid on the street that's maybe slinging a little dope, right, or maybe he's doing some shoplifting, they know that as well. So I'm going to challenge you to do what I believe that as a community of faith we're all called upon to do, and that's to lead and serve in a manner that's not about self-preservation. In other words, it's in a manner that's not about winning the next election or making sure as a police chief you don't get fired, right? Lead and serve as a matter that the day that we meet our Maker, he's going to say, you know what, you always had what was right in your heart, and what was right in your heart for the person whom you were going to judge, and not what was right for you and your self-preservation. Does that make sense to everybody? So as I close, because I know we have a lot of really interesting comments, and by the way, I have to get back, so I'm going to leave after I get I'm a cop, you got to get your free lunch before you leave, right? And I like my steak medium rare plus, not too raw. Here's what I would ask everybody to do. Be courageous. Be bold. You know, KPRC in Houston called me controversial. And you know what? My response to the Chronicle yesterday or 2 days ago when I met with the editorial board for an hour and a half, if you are in a position of authority, and you've been in a position of authority for more than an hour, and you're not controversial, you are not doing your job. That means that you are playing it safe. That means that you stand for nothing. That means that you're putting yourself first instead of mission first, instead of results first, and instead of, in our business, justice first. And so be controversial, be bold. When Black Lives Matter after Dallas was attacked a little bit by people in this community, guess what? I stood up there and I said, Black lives do matter, and as a police chief, I stand with Black Lives Matter. Now, I do, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Now, do I stand with that small section that go around saying, oink, oink, pig should die? Absolutely not. Those folks are not activists, they're anarchists. And so what we need to do, as I close, is put away the broad brushes. Put away the broad brushes when we're talking about police officers, and let's start painting police officers and judging them through the prism of their own individual action, and not through the prism of what some guy did in Ferguson, or what some guy did in South Carolina, or some guy did next door, what some other cop did. We need to judge people through the prism of their own character, their own actions, and through the prism of what we know about them. We cannot paint Muslims with the broad brush where when we do that, what we're doing is doing what? Pushing people towards radicalization. There's good and bad in everything. There's good and bad in policing. There's good and bad on the bench. There's good and bad at the legislature. There's good and bad in every segment of society. And so as we seek justice, I would just challenge everybody in here to be bold, be courageous, place your duty and place what we're supposed to be doing, the mission above self-preservation. But most importantly, don't be afraid to lose your job. Everybody in here is educated. Everybody in here is talented. At the end of the day, we all talk about being people of faith. You know what? God knows what's in our heart. God knows what drives us. And God knows that you may be doing this, but if your actions and what's in your heart isn't in line with what you're doing and saying, there will be an ultimate judge, and I hope that the day that we all meet our Maker, that we say we did our very best to ensure the justice for everybody. God bless you all. Thank you for having me.